Hello everyone, welcome. In this short video, I'm going to try to work on NSG and try to explain what that is. When you deploy a virtual machine, Azure automatically creates those NSGs for you. For this lab, what we're going to do, first we're going to create a resource group and we're just going to call it test NSG. And actually yes, EastUS is good, so I want to make sure that I'm creating in a right and good region. So that is created. Now here we are in that resource group, so we want to control our networking. So let's start creating a virtual network that we're going to use for this particular resource group. So virtual network, and let's create a virtual network, and I'm going to place this virtual network within this test NSG. So I've got test NSG vnet. Okay, so that's going to be, and it says US, so I'm going to change that back to East US. That's where I want to deploy. Remember that within a resource group you can deploy resources in multiple regions, but we want to be able to deploy it in that region only for the purpose of this lab. And then I'm deploying the virtual machine, the virtual network, and it should take just a second for this virtual network to be deployed. In here it has given me an address space, and let's look at, there is no connected devices, and Azure by default creates a default subnet for you. So let's create 3 of our own subnets. So let's call it subnet 1, and 10.1.1.0 is good. And what we want to do, network security group, right now we do not have any route table, we do not have any there is nothing, so that's all I wanted, so that's good. I like that. So there's my subnet 1. Let's do a subnet 2, subnet 2, and 10.1.2.0 is fine. That's good. So let's do that. And I'm also gonna create another subnet that would be subnet 3, and let's see, subnet 3, and hit OK. So I got now 3 different subnets within, and I'm going to delete this, the default one, and we're just going to work with these 3 subnets. So what we have so far, we have a resource group. Within the resource group we have created a virtual network which is required for your VM deployment, but we have not created any NSGs. Okay, so let's go back to our resource group. So you can do it that way. So you can go to the overview. What resource group is deployed? Test NSG. So you are here in this resource group. Right now I have a virtual network, and within that I have 3 subnets. That's all. So let's add some cheap Ubuntu machines in those subnets. So let's start deploying. This is the right, so let's do Ubuntu to subnet 1A. Okay, and it's gonna be East US, and everything else I don't care. And this is a very cheap version of Ubuntu, 1 virtual CPU and 0.5 gigs, but I'm happy with that. And I'm just gonna use password based authentication. Okay, and alright, I got the password. Allow port, yeah, 22 is good. And I really actually, let's go look at disk. I don't think we're gonna move anything. I don't really need, let's change that to HDD maybe. Yeah, networking we want to take a quick look at. Virtual network, is this the network that we want to use? This, we want to use subnet 1 for the deployment. Public IP is fine if you want to create one. I really don't need anything else. Management, boot diagnostic, yeah, it's all good. Advanced tags, I don't need any of that, and we have covered all those features in other videos as well. So I'm happy about it. So I'll just create this machine. So this is my first machine which is being deployed. I still, okay, one thing I didn't notice, if we have configured the NSG or not, so we'll know in a minute. And as soon as this deployment is done, we'll take a look at the virtual machine, and we'll do some more deployment. So let's go back to the resource group. Resource group, it should say that it's deploying. Oh, it's creating a NSG which I do not want. So so by default, when you're creating, if you do not specify that you do not want a NSG, it will create an NSG for you. So what we'll do, the other thing is we can just get rid of the NSG when it's deleted, when it's yeah, we really don't care about this the NSG at this time, because we're going to configure these NSGs. So let's get rid of it. I'll just say yes. Yeah, I don't need any NSGs assigned to everything else. I think we did just fine. We just forgot to say that, hey, don't create any NSG. So I think we should be okay. So let's just pause until this deployment is done. Then we'll do a few more deployments to set up our lab environment. Alright, we're back. I think the deployment of the first virtual machine is done. I still see the network security group is there, so I'm going to try to delete it one more time and say yes, and see if we can get rid of this particular NSG, and let's see what happens. So what we want to keep is the disk that is attached to my virtual machine. And so last time we tried, it failed, and I'm not sure the reason. It's possible that once you deploy it, you cannot delete it anymore. Alright, when this is happening, we're going to try to just deploy another virtual machine and see if we can really deploy a virtual machine without NSG, and I think we can. Okay, it still didn't let me delete it. So maybe once it's created, you cannot delete it. So let's go back. From the resource group, click our next resource, and we're gonna create another Ubuntu. Create, and this time we're gonna pay attention to what we are doing. So what we'll do, virtual machine name, let's say Ubuntu subnet 2 VM1. Okay, let's put it in the same East US, and this time we'll be careful. So we have that. Let's go to disk. Let's go to networking, and here we're gonna spend a little bit more time. Virtual network is still good. Subnet, I want the second subnet. Public IP. NIC here. NIC is fine. Fine. Public inbound is good. This is good. Load balancing is good. It's not even asking me for a network security group. Oh, sorry, NIC network security group. We are saying that create the basic, and I don't want to create any. Okay, so that was the problem that I had with the first machine. So now this machine, we shouldn't have any network security group associated with it at all. Okay, So there we go. So this one, we are deploying this particular machine in subnet 2, and we should not have any network security group in here. What we're gonna do next then, go back, and we need one more machine. Resource group, what we'll do, that's the resource group that we're working on, and we're gonna add one more Ubuntu server in our subnet 3. And again, we're not going to create any NSG. So Ubuntu sub 3 VM1, I'm going to deploy it in East US, and this looks good. Disk, I don't need anything. Networking, right here, we don't want any network security group. Okay, and that network security group is associated with the NIC. Okay, we do not want that. And subnet, we want to be deployed in subnet 3. Whereas you should not need to change anything. Okay. Right, it says validation failed, so what am I missing? So I need my username and password, so let's put that. Ibasu. Alright, so we got, now let's review and create. And create. Alright, while it's going on, let's go back to our resource group. Let's look at our VM2. So you see that Ubuntu 1 is got a NSG associated with it, but Ubuntu 2 VM1, there is no Ubuntu 2 NSG for it. Okay, and we had trouble deleting this particular NSG. So let's go to this virtual machine and let's figure out what is our problem. Let's go back and read the error that we had. Network security group cannot be deleted because it isn't used by the following resource subscription. So most likely you cannot delete in order to delete the network security group, remove the association with the resources. So before I delete it, so let's go to NSG1. It must have an association. So here I think network interfaces is probably got the VM1 network interface in here, or is it, come on, or subnet, where is it applied? No subnets, association must be where, this is the one. So what we want to delete this. Okay, that's something, disassociate. So there is no delete button, but disassociate is what we want. So now what we did, we disassociate the first NSG that was associated with the interface card of the first virtual machine. So the association is gone. So now let's refresh it. Let's see if it's truly disassociated, and there is nothing there. So at this time we should be able to delete this particular resource. So we probably have to go back to our resource group. So let's go to the resource group. So all we are doing at this time is getting rid of any NSGs, because we want to manually configure. We do not want Azure to automatically configure NSG for us. Okay, and then we'll look at some requirements, and based on the requirements we'll try to deploy some NSGs, and we will try to use the minimum number of NSGs that's possible for our requirements. Okay, so that's getting deleted, and this time, since I don't have an association, we should not get any problem. Okay, so that's deleted. So now let's just look at the virtual machines real quick. Okay, So virtual machine, so let's just go to the resources, and you can do all resources if you like, or virtual machine. Okay, so all resources will show you all the resources that you have available, and here you can do by type, and here are your virtual machines. Okay, virtual machines. So let's go to this subnet 2 VM1. This is my public IP. I do not know if I have the ping enabled for this IP, or we can do this. We can do SSH. Okay, so SSH, and I just want to validate that there is no NSG right now. Yeah, so it's going to that machine, and I can provide my password to log into that machine. Okay, yeah, so I'm there inside that machine right now. So if you look in here, so I have no NSGs created at all. So if you go to networking, so there is no network security group. This network does not contain network security group. Okay, so the other thing we can do, we can go to the subnet, and is there anything? I have no firewall. If I click on security, I have no recommendations right here. They should give me a recommendation to have NSG though. Alright, so right now I do not have any protection, so all the ports and everything is open to all of the machines that we have deployed. Now let's pause and build our requirements. So this is kind of like our requirements. We want to allow web requests to VM2 and 3. Now allow connection between all 3 VMs, allow SSH to VM1 only, and prevent all other network traffic. So let's start with the minimum number of NSG. So let's create one NSG. So let's just select NSG. Right now we do not have any. Okay, so now we are gonna create an NSG. Let's create and call it resource group. We're gonna use test NSG, name NSG1. I say this is a top level NSG. Create in the same East US location and say create. So this is going to create my NSG at the top level, and then create, go to resource to come. So we already have some rules defined. Now subnets, let's associate all 3 subnets that I have to this NSG and see if that's gonna be helpful. So I have a which one we are using the test NSG virtual network, and in this network I have subnet 1, okay, and let's see if I can associate the other subnets as well. So subnet 2, okay, and I'm gonna associate the other subnet as well. So subnet 3. So all 3 subnets that I have in this in our environment, they are now associated with this virtual machine, with this NSG. Now since my default rule, so let's go on inbound rule, so it does not allow SSH at this time. Okay, let's get out of here, and it usually takes a little bit of time to get these rules associated, but at this time if I try to log into this machine, it's still asking me for the password, so I still have the connection. But if you just give me 1 minute, I'm just going to pause the video, come back in 2 minutes. This should not happen anymore. Alright, let's pause the video just for the sake of saving time, and we'll be back. Alright, it's been about a couple minutes, so I'm back in here. So at this time I'm going to try to connect to that virtual machine, and as you see that now it's no longer giving me, hey, give me the password and you should be able to log in. No, it's not, it's gone. So when we deployed, there was no network security group at all. Now we have created one network security group and associated all 3 subnets to this one NSG, and we have blocked every single connection. So let's go back to our requirements and kind of read and see. So now we need to allow web request to 2 particular VMs. Now to do that, can I do it from here? So that is the question. So can we associate an interface as well? So say I want to allow VM, and this may get pretty complicated. I'm just trying it out, so just stay with me. And what I'm trying could be a completely no go at all, and we may have to go back and create another NSG to do that. So right now I have a top level NSG. Now I have this one as well, and I'm also associating VM3 to this one. This is a little weird. It's because I already have a top level NSG, the same NSG to cover all 3 subnets. Then I'm saying, hey, use the same NSG for these 2 VMs as well. That may not work. So let's go and take a look at the security rule for the inbound. If I try to add source any, source port any, destination, here it is asking me for virtual network or application security group. Okay, so now I don't have any application security. Application security group is not something they have in our requirement, but I can definitely use the IP address. So if I go back and let's get the IP address of those 2 VMs. So the requirement is don't allow traffic to those VMs only. So if I go back to the resource groups, and which is, where is my resource group? Test NSG. From here, say VM. That's VM1. I need this is VM3. So let's get the IP of this one. Public IP is this one. So I'm on that rule. I'll say okay. So this is my IP address. That's the first one. Comma. So comma is not allowed maybe. Okay, so if I do with one IP and send it to 8080 or just port 80, so this is going to allow a connection to that particular VM. It says addresses, but it says distance IP address or CID annotation. Okay, so let's just create this one for priority, say 500 and say port 80. So we are going to create 2 rules in here. Okay, so that rule is going to the VM1, and then I'm going to create another rule I'm going to create destination and I'm going to pick up the VM, the other VM. So the VM2 subnet 1, so let's go to that one. So let's get the IP address again, and we're going to configure this time destination IP address is this, and I'm going to allow the port 80. It's a TCP connection really, and priority 510 port 80, and this is actually VM2. Okay, so so add excuse me. Okay, let's review this real quick. So I have did we edit that rule? What happened to our 500 rule? Alright, let's go back in here. Let's find the VM3 one more time. Get the IP 206 and make sure that we are creating a new rule. 520 is fine. 80 TCP port 80. This is port 80. Say VM3, and put this in there, or just call it VM3, and say add. All right. So I have two. No, that's not right. I want destination IP address to be the IP address of the virtual machine. So now say update. Okay, save. Alright, so now what you're seeing in the same NSG, I have one rule where I have opened up port 80, but this you can only connect to this machine from any source to this destination, and again we have done from any source to that destination. I'm also allowing port 80, so that meets this requirement. Then it's saying allow connection between all VMs. Now that connection is usually by default it's there. So let's allow SSH to VM1. So let's configure this one now. So for SSH to VM1, let's go back to NSG. So we need to figure out the IP address for the VM1. So let's get that one. And here's my IP address. So copy that one. We're going to create a new rule to allow that IP to that particular VM. So from any destination IP address is this, and destination port is 2020. TCP allow priority 330 is fine, so port 22. So SSH to VM1. So now I have added that particular rule as well. So let's, and the last, prevent all other traffic to vnet 1. So vnet 1 should not get any other traffic. So I feel like I don't even need this association. So let's get rid of this disassociate, because I've already done everything I needed at the subnet level, and all the rules that I have created, that rule should take care, like the one NSG, I can configure all of the traffic between all of these virtual machines. So right now what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna go back in here and I'm gonna try to connect it, and now see that it's still not being able to connect, because the new NSG where I said yeah we should be able to connect, it will take just a minute to to allow that connection. Okay, while that happens, let's verify that the other two IPs, hold on, this all three of them got the same IP, so we must have got a wrong IP for one of them. So this is subnet 2 VM1, so we don't want that. We want the SSH to subnet 1 VM. So subnet 1 VM is this, so let's update that IP address for this. So copy, so go back, and there is our open it up, and this should be the IP for the VM1. Okay, now save it. So now let's verify and understand our rule just a little as soon as it saves. Okay, so by default Azure always allow all the connection between all of the subnets as long as they're in a one particular virtual network. What I have done on the top of it, we are allowing port 22 to this particular machine only, and we are allowing port 80 to the other two virtual machines. Okay, there are other ways to do that, but this is where I'm doing it in a way that I'm minimizing the number of NSGs that I need. And I have associated the NSGs or subnets to this particular NSG. I'm not using the network interface. So these two machines you cannot go using SSH or anything like that. The only port that are open in these two machines are port 80. If an application server is running, you can get to that one. Let's try to go to this machine and see if I can get the login screen. Okay, so it's still not there, so I'm going to give it one more minute and be back. Okay everyone, so we're back. It's been a while that I paused the video and came back. So what we were trying to do, we have a NSG. Okay, and this NSG, we have configured this rule right here, which is at a higher level than some of the deny rules. So we have tried to enable port 22 from any source to that destination, which is 52, 152, 139 and 69. Okay, but for whatever reason I still cannot connect to the machine at all. This is something what I was not expecting. So let's think about it, why it is not working for us. Let's open up the rule one more time. Source any, source port rent is any, destination IP address is the IP address of my virtual machine, 22 is the port, it's TCP. I'm telling hey allow, and I'm saying 530 is the priority. So this is very weird that it's not working. So let's try something. Let's try with another virtual machine. Let's go back to the virtual machine and make sure that it's running actually. So virtual machine, and we are working on that's virtual network. So for virtual machines is what I'm interested in at this time, and this is the one that we are trying to connect. So let's get in there. See, this is stopped. No, sorry, this start means it's already running. Okay, so I'm just going to restart this just to be sure that once we added all of the network security group, it had something to do with it. So click and get that IP looks good. Successfully restarted the virtual machine. And while this is happening, let's try and open up the SSH port for a couple other machines in there, say maybe 3. Maybe copy that one, and let's go back to our NSG inbound rules. Let's create another inbound rules for any destination IP address to this, and destination ranges is 22, TCP allow 540, and this is for VM2. Okay, so this description should say, no, this is for 2020. What is my name? I should have changed the name. But anyway, so we have created now 2 different NSG rules. One to allow traffic to this virtual machine at 206, and another one to 169. Now 206 is the virtual machine 3, and again it may take just a little bit of time, so let's pause and get back to this one. Alright, I'm trying out my SSH connection to the other host, and it's still not working. So it's something is telling me the way we are trying to configure this networking is not working very well. So let's go back and try something else. Go to our NSG, and there is only still we're working with one NSG, and in this NSG for the inbound rule we are trying to allow traffic to particular hosts, but for some reason, whatever that might be, this is not working, and we can clearly say that although it says allow, it's not working. So one other thing we can try, actually, you know what, this address has to be the private address. So we are trying to give the public address of the machine, and that is the problem. You can never assign public addresses of those machines. So let's go in there one more time and fix our mistakes. So go back. So in here virtual we wanted, so let's go back and look at our we want SSH to VM1. So let's get the VM1 is this subnet 1, and I want the private IP address, so get that one. And from here this is 59, let me make sure this time 69 is really not needed, so I'm just going to delete that one. Oh, this is saying VM1, so I'm just going to use the private IP address of that machine, and I'm going to say yes. So now the port 22 is being updated for this particular virtual machine, and now you see that I have a 10114 which is associated with subnet 1 VM is now is part of this rule now. So once this is done, I can actually get rid of this. This is something I did not need in the first place anyway, so get rid of that. And we should fix the other two, where we said we were allowing using our external IP. That probably is not going to work. So you should go back and subnet 2, get the private IP address and update your NSG accordingly. So let's update this one first. Here's the private IP, and save, and do the same thing over here as well. VM3, get our private IP address. As soon as this is done, we're gonna save this one. So this is, let's come over here, an IP address, there we go. So hope that was a good troubleshooting experience for you guys, where we are still learning, trying to figure out how to troubleshoot and still achieve our requirements. Okay, so now since this is done and I have enabled my SSH to this particular virtual machine, now I can go back to that virtual machine and we're going to use the public IP address to get to it and see what happens. Now again, this one might take a minute or so, yeah, but it's, there we go. Wonderful. So now we have solved a really critical and crucial requirement. So if you go back to the requirement that we started with, so we wanted to allow SSH to this VM only. So based on our rule, you cannot really do SSH to any other VM. Web request to only VM2 and VM3, that is also now defined. Connections between all VMs is always there. So from this VM, if I now want to go to the other VM, I can. So let's prove that. So right now I just proved that I can log into this particular VM from my machine, from local Ubuntu machine. So let's try to go from here to this machine. Okay, if I try to do that, if I use the public IP address from this machine, can I do that? SSH. Let's try that. And notice again, we are in that virtual machine. This machine is hosted in the Azure environment. So let's try that. And you can't. So what is happening? Because we are trying to use the public network, it's not working for us. So let's try the private IP address. Can I do that? Can I now SSH? If you ask me, I would think I can. Let's see. There we go. Yes. So once we are in the network from this machine, as long as we are within the Azure network, I can connect to a machine which is there in a separate subnet, no problem. So I don't need any rule, any NSG, nothing like that to configure. So let's prove that. And there we go. So now from that virtual machine, now we are in this machine. So let's go back to the requirement. So we proved that we have rules to allow traffic to VM2 and VM3, which is in virtual networks 2 and virtual network 3, or subnet 2 and subnet 3, I'm sorry. We have connection between all the machines. That's fine. Allow SSH to VM1, we have already configured that, and prevent all other traffic to vnet1. And that is also part of our security groups. So what in essence we have done, we have proved that with only one network security group, we have achieved all of the requirements that were given to us. So let's go back to the networking one more time. And this is VM3 networking, so we just want to go back to, maybe just go back to the NSG blade one last time before we close the video. So we created this NSG. We made sure when we were deploying our virtual machines, we are not creating the NSG. Actually, by mistake, we created one, so we had to disassociate that NSG and get rid of it. So when we created, there was no security at all, but we didn't want to create and assign security to each virtual machine and assign NSG to each network interfaces. So what we did, we worked with NSG that we created, and we associated all 3 subnets to this particular NSG. And then we looked into the security groups security inbound security rules, and we just created only 3 rules to meet all of the requirements that were given to us. So although there were 4 requirements, if the question is how many NSG do you need to do all of that stuff, I just proved to you just need 1 NSG, right? Now how many rules do you need? For that you really needed 3 different rules. And as a matter of fact, I truly think that these 2 rules can be combined. So let's try that one last time before we close the lab. So in here 10.1.2.4, and let's see what was the other address. 10.1.3.4, 10.1.2.4 and 10.1.3.4. So let's see, is it slash? No, comma, 10.1.3.4. there you go. So now you got it. So I'm saying from any source, any port, if these 2 destinations are available, allow port 80. So then save. Okay, so as soon as this is saved, we can get rid of the other rule. So we really needed 2 rules and 1 NSG. So this one, so I don't need this rule anymore. You can get rid of it. And you can refresh it. There we go. So for all of the requirement that we had, we only needed 2 different rules. In one rule, we are sending traffic to these 2 particular virtual machines, which are hosted in 2 different subnets, doesn't matter. And on the third one, we're only allowing SSH connection to the VM that is hosted in subnet 1. Okay, I know this video is kind of like we tried something, it didn't work, we tried something else, didn't work, then we figured out how to do and solve everything. But that is real life. You will have to do this to learn things, how they work. Couple things that we learned: when you are doing your NSG, you do not use the public address in your rule set. Always go with the private addresses in your configurations. With that, I would like to end the video here, and I'll be doing some more videos, so please keep watching if you want to learn some weird things maybe. Good luck with the exam. Thank you for watching.